Aztec hot chocolate mead. All right, so we have made spicy meads before, but we've never mixed spices and chocolate before. The Aztecs do a thing with their hot chocolate where they put a whole bunch of spices and chilies into it, and they make hot chocolate that way. And
it's fantastic.
So we're gonna make a mead sort of like that. So let's start.
All right, so the first thing we're going to do actually is hydrate our yeast.
Yes. Now, this is an optional step, okay? We used to do it, then we stopped doing it, and we started doing it again, and people have been asking. And the reason we started doing it again is, well, we live in Florida. We've had some bad experiences, okay? Some of our yeast have showed up DOA because it's hot. You know, those UPS trucks, it's hot. We have bought some locally whenever we can, but every once in a while we do get some delivered. This happens to be Premier Côte de Blancs by Red Star Yeast, and this brings out fruity flavors. And I thought, you know, the fruitiness of those chilies is important for this, and it's a 12 to 14% ABV.
Thwack your packet.
And why do we thwack the packet?
Because it's static clean. The little yeasties get stuck in there, and they don't fulfill their destiny.
See, that's my line. I need some water, though, please.
You asked?
I know. I set you up for it. And just a couple ounces of water, like a quarter cup of water or so. I like to just give it a little bit of a jiggly swirl here. I don't want them to get stuck to the sides too much, but I do want to get them into the water and then just set it to the side. Now that is just plain water. It's probably not quite blood temperature, so it's a little bit cooler. I don't say room temperature anymore because our room, your room, somebody else's room, they're all different. But if your blood is drastically different in temperature than mine, you probably need to see a doctor.
All right, so we're going to move on to our honey. The honey choice in this particular situation probably doesn't matter too much. Yeah. Now, don't jump on my case and say, Derek said I could use whatever honey I wanted. That's not entirely true. You want to stick to basically a neutral profile.
Wildflower is probably appropriate.
Which is what we're using.
And wildflower is going to vary from area to area, too. Our wildflower is going to be different than yours. This happens to be a local Florida wildflower honey, and we're going to be using 3 pounds of honey. So I need you to watch the funnel.
All right.
This is a 2-person adventure here because what'll happen is the honey doesn't go through the funnel fast enough. So it'll actually fill the funnel up before it all goes through.
All right, you're at the bend.
Wow, that filled up fast.
Yeah.
While I'm pouring the honey, I'll explain why we're using 3 pounds. Each pound of honey in a gallon of must, which this is going to be a 1-gallon recipe, gives 0.035 specific gravity, okay? So that means if I want to make roughly like a 13% or so mead, I'd need to start with a 1.100 or so starting gravity. So 0.035 times 3 is 0.105. So it's darn close to 100. I'll go with that. All right, I got a little on me. Gotta go wash my hands. Now it's time to add a little water because we got honey in the funnel and we want to start mixing this honey in. So we're just going to add to about halfway.
So in our pitcher, with the raised numbers, we have 96 ounces.
Which is just under 3 liters. And the reason we're using 96 ounces is because that's 3/4 of a gallon. Well, 3 pounds of honey equals about a quart, which is 32 ounces. So it works out. 3 pounds of honey and 96 ounces of water gives you a full gallon.
Do you want to do your fancy pour thing? Because I didn't get very much of the honey out.
Fancy pour? I don't know what she means. My fancy pour is when I do it really high. But that just spills like I just did. It would not... See, it wouldn't be a City Steading Brew show if I didn't spill something. I don't want to go any further than that. That's good.
All right.
Okay, just stick the funnel in there. Here, we're going to need the rest of it.
Yes, I was trying to get it out of my face.
Now, I have here what I call the thumb saver bung. It is literally just a solid stopper. If you have the lid for your fermenter, like if there's a screw-on cap or something, go ahead and use that if you trust it.
Yes.
I prefer to put my thumb over this, and it's all good. You can use the one that has a hole in it. It just, after a while, starts to kind of, it hurts a little bit, you know, sensitive thumbs and all.
Thus, the thumb saver bung.
Right. And now it's time to mix the bejesus out of it. What I'm also doing is mixing air into it, because that's important at this stage of the game.
If you notice the color of it now...
Yeah.
It'll be vastly different when Brian is done.
It's already different. Look at that. Obviously, if you're making a larger batch than 1 gallon, and I know a lot of you do, you just scale everything up to that size, and you might actually want to use the attachment that has like the spinny wheels on your drill to mix this up. It'll be a little easier. Notice the color, but also just because you think you're done doesn't mean you're done. My rule of thumb is when you think you're finished mixing, mix for 2 more minutes. Whew. Okay, and when you go to release this, just know that there will be some buildup of pressure and it could spit at you. So see, like that. So be careful. One other thing, if you don't mix fully, the worst thing that's going to happen is you're not going to get an accurate original gravity. The yeast are still going to get to that honey. We actually did a dump mead where we just dumped everything in, didn't mix anything up, and it worked beautifully. It actually came out lovely. I love that mead. So this should be mixed really, really well. And I see stuff on the bottom. So it's not. So I want to mix this up even better. It is, however, super oxygenated now, which is kind of cool. All right, one thing that we want to add now is the spice. Now, you might be wondering, where's the chocolate? Where's the other stuff?
That comes later.
Yeah, one thing at a time. There's a lot of different ways to add chilies into a mead. You can slice them up, you can mash them up in a blender, or you can just stick the end over it and cut them with sanitized scissors. By the way, we sanitized the chilies and the scissors.
And everything.
And everything. What did we sanitize everything in, Derica?
Red bucket. The chilies are squirting me. And
Really?
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
So I totally ruined that.
Do it again.
For your benefit. Ahem.
What did we sanitize everything in, Derica?
The red bucket of sanitization.
Which is?
It's a big red bucket that we put Star Sand solution and water in to the recommended factory. I can't say anything today. I'm all gone.
And what is the red bucket of sanitization, Derica?
It's a large red bucket that we put a mixture of Star Sand solution and water into based on the recommendations by the manufacturer. So that way all of our equipment is sanitized.
In case anyone's curious, yes, stems, seeds, everything, well, except for that seed, are all going in. Why? Because I want the heat on this and I want the fruitiness. These are Serrano Chilies, by the way. It's the closest thing I could find to like a authentic chili that maybe the Aztecs might have used. And, Publix had them, so that's why we're using them. I said it was inspired by. I didn't say it was a clone of. Because I'm pretty sure they didn't make this into a mead, so.
I think they did make honey.
I don't know if they did or not. I actually hadn't. That was all of them. Okay. I am not touching this because, I might have to use the restroom later. So, all right.
I'm gonna put this in the sink.
Yeah.
I don't want to put this in the Star Sand.
I was going to just do that for you.
Oh, okay.
The next thing I want to add is some nutrient for that yeast because honey doesn't actually have a lot of nutrients in it. And as much as the capsaicin and the chilies are actually a pretty decent energizer for yeast for some reason, they seem to like it. They're actually bad for the yeast too. So, because capsaicin and yeast are actually not a good combination.
Yeah.
It's really weird. They get super active, but it's actually not good for them.
Yeah.
So we're going to use a half teaspoon of Fermento. This happens to be the one from North Mountain Supply. Link in the description below. And now, more water. I'm going to add in probably almost all the water that's left. The trick here is how high do you want to go? How greedy do you want to be? What I mean by that is, even though this is actually a low foaming yeast, it's still going to create some foam. I don't want too many explosions. By explosions, I mean eruptions coming up and out of the airlock.
It's like a volcano.
There's still quite a bit of water left though, so I'm gonna risk it. That's as far as I dare to go right now. But I'm gonna put our thumb saver bung back on and give this a couple of shakes just to mix everything through. And as Derica said, we're gonna take a pH reading. I wanna take that now before we add our yeast. Now, you might be wondering, why do we need to worry about a pH reading? Well, honey is actually quite acidic. So we want to make sure that it's within the range that the yeast like to work in. So we wanna just check on that because we can make adjustments now before we, screw it all up later on, right? So I'm just gonna grab a little bit with a pipette here. I literally need like a drop or two. Put it on some test strip paper. That is super green. Usually means it's way too non-acidic. That's really interesting. I don't think I've ever seen a mead do that before.
Yeah.
To the point that I think I need to check again. I need to give this a swirl and make sure. Did I maybe hit something that was too acidic? I don't know. That was weird. I mean, that's like 6.0.
It's too alkaline, not too acidic.
Oh, right. Did I say alkaline? Non-acidic, I think is what I said. Because I couldn't think of the word alkaline. It's way too basic rather than acidic. Now, the problem with that is botulism can actually grow at that level. So we want to be very careful that we're not going to be adding danger to this. Nope, I didn't actually have it mixed up perfectly, but it's still really, really high. It's well above 5 or 5.5. So we need to acidify this. So to do that, we're going to be using acid blend. This also happens to come from North Mountain Supply. And on here, it says 1 teaspoon per gallon increases acidity by 0.1%. Now, I am not a chemist. I will be the first to admit that. And I normally just add like a half teaspoon at a time until I get it where I want it to be, because pH works on a logarithmic scale. It's not like if you add a half teaspoon to 4 pH, it does a different amount than it does if you add it to, say, 6 pH. And because it's really hard to tell if that's 5, 5.5, or 6, I'm just going to assume it's the worst. Go with a half teaspoon, mix that through. And you want to mix this through really good because otherwise you won't be getting an accurate reading. It is kind of crazy that the pH was that high. Honey is usually more acidic than that. Usually honey falls in the 4 to 4.5 naturally. So yet another reason why it's important to check pH if you can. And these strips are cheap. I mean, they're like $10 for a whole package of them. And I've been using this same one for a long time. Can we sanitize that just to make sure that that's not changing our result? Ooh, spicy. Look at that. We took it right down between 4 and 4.5. Perfect. That's exactly what we want. So now this will work. Had we not done that, it's not a guarantee that this could go bad, but there's a chance that something bad could take hold in there and potentially ruin the brew or be dangerous. Too high of a pH is actually worse than too low. Too low just means that the yeast won't work. Too high could actually be dangerous. So be really, really careful with that. It's also an unusual situation. It doesn't happen all that often.
Yeah,
that's the first time we've ever seen it that high with honey.
Yep.
All right. Our yeast has been sitting for a while. I know this is a good packet because we just did a brew just before we did this video, like today. And it was very active, but let me show you what this one looks like. It's not super active, but it's got a little going for it. If you look inside there, you can see some bubbles. There's a little bit of movement. There's like some foam looking things. That means the yeast should be alive and totally fine to use. And that is the next step. Give it a good swirl around. Get them all up into solution. Nobody sticks to the sides. No hanger-oners. And I'm just going to pour it in carefully.
But we have some goop in the bottom, so we're going to use some of that extra water.
Yep.
Because that's a significant amount.
Yeast. They have to fulfill their destiny. We don't want a lot of water, though. Just a little bit, like a tablespoon. That's good. All right, and in they go. And now, all that is left is a gravity reading. Well, not all, but that's the next thing we got to do. I like to take a gravity reading at the beginning because it tells me, did I overshoot what the yeast can actually do? It does help in calculating your ABV later. But really, the important thing is, did I add way too much by mistake? Apparently, that's a thing because people tell me all the time, I added 3 times too much honey by mistake. Okay, well, if you take a reading, you know. If you don't take a reading, you don't know. And too much honey is bad because it'll kill your yeast. They will stall out and it won't ferment properly. There's a reason why we measure out the amount of water. Notice we didn't use all the water. There's still probably 6 ounces left. It's okay, but we are actually at 1.112 for our gravity reading, which is only about 12 points higher than I really want it to be, but it is a little higher. Now, if I look at our hydrometer and just flip it to the side at that 1.112 reading, I can find out approximately the potential ABV that we could have, and it's looking like just over 14%, which this yeast can still manage 12 to 14%, and if it ends up a little bit on the sweet side after it's finished, that's okay too, because we're probably going to end up sweetening this anyway. I mean, it's hot chocolate mead. It's going to be kind of sweet, right? Now, I'm going to dump this back in here. Some people don't do that. We're not some people. because we sanitized everything. It's very important. If you did not sanitize all your equipment, don't do this. You'd be adding infection right back in. As we said, oxidation at this point is not a thing. You want oxygen in there to get things started. Whew. Where are we at now? What do we got to do? I think we just need an airlock and a bung. We have our airlock and bung. These are important because what it's going to do is keep bugs out. As fermentation begins, what will start to happen is air will be pressed up, gases will be pushed up this side and push this side totally down and put all the liquid on this side of our airlock. This is a little bit loose. I might have to add a rubber band to it. So as that happens, it'll start to push gases through and it'll bubble out the airlock. If you don't see that happen within 3 or 4 days, you probably want to add more yeast, but just ask us. Ask right in the comments on this video and we'll be able to help you out just in case you need it. So we're going to let this sit and ferment for probably a couple of weeks and then we'll be back to show you.
Because we were so greedy and went pretty close to the aperture, we're actually going to put this on a tray with
a cookie
edges.
sheet with little lipped edge.
That's just in case it does overflow and does that volcano thing we talked about. It'll be caught in the tray rather than dispersed evenly all over our kitchen.
Right. And when it starts to slow down, we'll be back to show you the next step. All right, it's been 2 weeks. It was a 1.012. Where's it at now?
We don't know.
Hopefully lower.
Let's find out.
If not lower, well, then, we got to start making some decisions. Got to whip it into shape or something. I don't know. It is clearing, though. That is usually a very good sign. Because I don't know why exactly. I'm not a scientist in that respect. But generally when things haven't cleared yet, it tells me that they're not totally finished in one way or another.
Well, part of the reason why.
Yeah, well, the yeast go dormant when they're done. But usually if something is stalled, see, this is, it's still 1.012.
It might just be done.
All right, then you know what? We should rack this. We should just rack it over and do the thing.
Part of the reason why it may have stopped at this is simply because we've added capsaicin, and capsaicin and yeast don't really play well together.
It also started, it's at 1.112. We did use, I don't even have the yeast written down. I'd have to look at our notes to know what we didn't write it down. Take notes, people. Do not do what we just did.
Take complete notes.
Write down everything that you do. So I'd say let's rack this today.
I would agree with that sentiment.
So I'm not going to pour that in.
Because we're going to be adding more stuff anyway.
Right. But what I want to do real quick is just get an idea of how much alcohol this made already.
I'm just going to sit this so I don't.
I'm going to say our yeast is probably somewhere in the 12 to 14% range. So if I go with that and I say 1.112 minus 1.012, it made 13.5% alcohol already. Now, in most cases, we would say that's stalled. And it did. Okay, there's no doubt that stalled. However...
But wait, there's more.
We're going to be adding so much other stuff to this.
It just doesn't matter.
It really doesn't make a difference. So let's rack this and see if we do something else today too.
Alrighty.
Racking, just like we always do, except that we're going to go do a narrow mouth container because we have some stuff that's going to go in there that's going to take up some space. So let me just put the airlock like there. I have the cap on our auto siphon. The other end is going to go in there. The trick is put your source higher than your destination and you should be fine. We do have videos on this though. We'll link them. All right, I went pretty deep into the lees on this one. Why? Because it just doesn't matter. There's so much stuff going to get added to this that it makes almost no difference.
Because this is a capsicum and this is a spicy meatball. This is not going into turbos.
No, because it'll just contaminate everything that touches turbos afterwards.
This is going to go into our kitchen sink with hot, soapy water. Probably multiple applications. We have racked, as you can see, some of our seeds went through the racking process. And that's okay. I'm
going to hold this off until we do the next thing. So we've decided that it's time to add the chocolate flavor. Oh, before we do that.
Time to add
the cinnamon. And we got like the big boy cinnamon here. I don't know. It came from the Asian market. These suckers are long. I was going to do 2 small cinnamon sticks. I think 1 big one is probably sufficient. Yeah. It's supposed to be heavily spiced with cinnamon and chili. So I think one...
That's going to do it.
If we need to add another one, we will. And that's okay.
So we're going to mark that we added one
cinnamon
girthy, long cinnamon stick. He's actually writing it.
1 girthy cinnamon stick. Okay. And for the chocolate, some people like to use cacao nibs. I've never had great luck with those. We use Creo Brew, which is actually a dark chocolate beverage that it's a powder like this that you steep in hot water and creates this really chocolatey thing.
We've had really good luck with it. Oh, yeah. So we're just going to continue. If it's not broken, don't fix it, right?
And I'm going to use a 1/4 cup of that. So quite a bit.
Make sure every bit comes out of your funnel because sometimes it gets clogged up.
Yeah.
This Brian is illustrating for you here.
I am not going to mix this because it's just going to go all over the sides and make a mess. It'll soak in and, well, okay, I can't not do something.
Just do a little wiggle wiggle. Don't do a swirly. Just do a little tension. There you go. See, it's coming down.
Okay. All right. Then I'm going to pour in
some of that. Yeah. Not all of it.
I want to taste it.
Because he wants to sneak a taste.
I want to taste it. It's probably going to just be like a really spicy, dry mead. But
yeah, it's going to be fire. Liquid fire.
I liked our lava mead, so...
Enjoy that with your face.
Oops. I still need less than that. You're not going to try?
No.
All right.
No.
It smells very spicy. We did use four Serranos.
Yeah.
This is almost lava mead.
Yeah.
No, it's not. The Serrano chili is a little different flavor.
Okay.
It's not as sweet as 1012 would make you think.
Okay.
Very dry. It's got a building kind of heat, but it's not super hot. Like the lava meat is way hotter. Okay. This is like a 5 on that scale versus lava meat being like a 9.
Cool.
So I think we're on the right track. It should be spicy. It should be sweet at the end. I'm just gonna have to swirl this. This isn't working.
He can't deal with it.
It's bothering me. I don't like seeing all that stuff because the one thing I know about Creo Brew is that if it's left exposed to the air, if it's
not
wet,
doing anything.
Well, not only that, it could mold.
Yeah.
So I don't want to have it mold. I'd rather it get a little bit moist, and it could use some degassing. You know.
So at this point, he may swirl it occasionally.
Yeah.
With the airlock
the first couple days
on.
So let me put the airlock back on.
And probably the rubber band because problems.
We just always use a rubber band. It, nice little safety.
Yeah.
By the way, people ask where we get the rubber bands from. Broccoli.
Broccoli.
Yeah. Broccoli bunches comes with the lovely rubber band.
And yes, I do sanitize them.
Yes. Every time. We have a drawer of them, pretty much.
Yep.
So what are we going to do now?
We're going to let it sit. For how long? I'm going to guess...
A week, maybe 2.
2 weeks.
Yeah. Creo Brew tends to take about 2 weeks when it's a dry hop type of
Normally, with the cinnamon, we would test it after the 1 week mark, but Brian has already stated quite clearly
lots of cinnamon.
That he wants this to be heavily spiced.
That's right.
So,
well, it should be.
2 weeks.
It's Aztec chocolate. Wait, it's Aztec hot chocolate mead, not wimpy hot chocolate mead.
Right,
it's Aztec hot chocolate mead, so it should be like strongly spiced.
Okay, so we'll see you in 2 weeks.
So it's been 2 weeks since we added Creo Brew and a girthy cinnamon stick. So now we want to get it off of those things because that's probably enough time for extraction and we don't want it to overpower. So we're going to rack. But there's a lot of gunk in here. So we have this thing.
Sorry, I had excess sanitization liquid.
Oh. So we have this thing called a rumble jar. And it's actually used to make cold brew coffee, but it is a micro perforated filter, kind of like a hops basket that you might use for dry hopping. We're going to use it to rack into. So that way only the liquid comes through this and all the solids get left behind. So this is going to go in the destination.
But there's plenty of surface area, so we don't have to worry about things clogging up the works.
That's the plan.
We should be good to go.
We'll see. because of that, I'm going to take the cap off and risk all kinds of craziness. So I'm just going to put this in, try to get past the cap of Creo Brew. Oh yeah, this is just going to be nasty, nasty, nasty. But it's going.
It's working really good.
And it's working.
I don't know why we didn't think of this sooner.
See, don't need no stinking brew bags. This is one of those times that a lot of people would consider using a brew bag though. And using the rumble jar just makes this super easy. So what you're seeing is in the picture that's actually in Derica's lap, she's holding the rumble jar right there in her hand, and you can see the liquid coming out of it. It's actually working beautifully.
So you can see how low we got into that goop. We were sucking like straight down to the bottom and all of that. And that is something that we couldn't have done without using the rumble jar. And you can see over here in our picture that sure, it's a little cloudy, but there's no large particulate in there at all. And that is really impressive.
Very fine particulates are already falling to the bottom though. And that's going to happen. But I kind of expect that we're gonna have to pasteurize this and let it sit anyway. So really doesn't matter all that much at this point. Okay, so as we like to do once we get to this point, and we could let this sit for a while and fall out of suspension, but I have a feeling it's not going to affect the flavor at this point. So we're going to make some flavor adjustments, which means we got to taste it first.
So we know in our heads, this should be
chocolatey,
honey,
cinnamon,
chocolate, spice.
Yes. On the smell, it is most certainly chocolate and spice.
And everything nice?
Yeah. She just washed this glass so it's warm, which changes things. It's interesting. I can't complain. This is probably not going to be a Derica Mead. This is me all day long.
I don't know. I like spiced hot chocolate.
Oh, okay. Well then I stand corrected. Gotta taste it though. This is just initial ideas, flavor adjustments. It's fairly dry, 1.012.
I feel like capsaicin.
But the chocolate's there.
Wow.
The chocolate is there. So is the cinnamon. You all right?
I didn't expect it to be that spicy.
Have some water. I think it needs some sweetness. Because above all, an Aztec hot chocolate to me comes across as something spicy sweet. So we're gonna add some honey. You gonna be okay? That's not even as hot as lava mead. It's spicy though. It's got a good kick. So I'm guessing a half pound or so to start with, just to get an idea. Just a few good glugs. Maybe I said half pound, but it's probably not a half pound. Our method of taste adjustment is add some, taste it, see if it's enough. So I added less than I think I might need, just on the off chance that it turns out to be more than I need. Yeah, that makes sense. I just want to mix that in real good. Adding sweetness to something that's spicy like this will actually cut down the spiciness effect. Just because, like, you know, there's the Scoville scale for chilies, and they actually cool them down with sugar water in between when they're doing testing. So maybe Derica can tolerate this once it's sweeter.
I could tolerate it. I just wasn't anticipating it being that spicy.
Well, we did use 4 Serrano Chilies to make this. So, I mean, you know, we did do a decent job of chilifying this. Chilifying? Spicing it up. Could use more. If you don't want to taste it, you don't have to.
Yeah, I'll go with your assessment. Do you think it's going to need a little bit of vanilla to help bump? Okay.
Yep. But let me get the sweetness level right.
All right. See?
Okay, it's got a little.
It gets you.
Maybe we're going to make this one a dessert mead. You know, and that's interesting too. We've made meads that were relatively dry that came out really amazing tasting and tasted semi-sweet. And we've made like metheglins and capsaicins that needed a lot of sweetness. I mean, like past what you would think is normal or sane sweetness. And they come out great.
It's all that balance of flavors. If you have a really overpowering flavor, then potentially, like in this case, you're going to need to over-exaggerate the sweetness to create that balance.
Another thing to consider too is like Polish meats. Everybody talks about Polish meats. They take years to make first, but a lot of the time they use a lot of honey. And I mean like as much as 1 to 1, 2 to 1, 2 times the honey of water. That's an insane gravity level. And here's the kicker. Even the super long aged ones are only like 14 to 16% ABV. So with that amount of honey, they are very incredibly sweet. And that's part of why they age them so long, to mellow the alcohol with that amount of sweetness. But they're not super high ABV. People think that they are, and they're really not. They're like 15% usually. So they end up being incredibly sweet. You're basically drinking honey syrup with a little alcohol at that point. But when you let that sit around for like 15, 20 years, it apparently tastes really good. Somebody wanted us to make one, and I was like, I want to be retired in 20 years. I don't want to be...
I wonder if we can buy them at that...
I don't even know.
Well, that pierogi place has
there's a Polish,
their Polish grocery.
Yeah, we can try it. See if they have it.
There's
The one in Clearwater?
There's even one here in St. Pete.
The Polish deli.
Yeah. I don't know if they have an alcohol license, but...
Ooh, that's starting to get really nice now. I think it needs more. Whoa, she downed that one. Did you see that? It's still got some kick, but the chocolate is there. The cinnamon I don't actually taste at all, but that's okay because we are going to be pasteurizing this. Like I said, we can still put some more stuff in it if we need to. But let me go get the vanilla. Yeah. Vanilla can often enhance the flavor of chocolate, and I think it's important for this one. So I'm going to start with a teaspoon. I do think this needs a little more sweetness, but I want to see what the vanilla does first.
Vanilla can also quickly overpower things, so it's better to go a little at a time. Because once it's in there, you can't take it out.
Yeah. So hopefully I didn't just ruin it. I just did a teaspoon, though. I asked her, do I do a tablespoon or a teaspoon? She says, teaspoon. So mix that through, give it another taste. Do we have a final gravity on it? Oh, this is 13.5%. 1.112 to start, 1.012 to finish, 13.5%. That's coming together really nice. Needs more honey, without a doubt. I'm not tasting the honey yet. The sweetness of it is starting to appear, but the chocolate was enhanced by the vanilla really nicely. Something that a lot of people seem to think is that chocolate and vanilla are opposites. They aren't. Not at all. They're not even different colors because vanilla comes in a black bean. So does chocolate.
Well, vanilla is from an orchid, and chocolate is from a bush, I think.
What's that got to do with it? I'm not saying they're the same. I'm just saying they're not opposites. They don't cancel each other out.
They don't cancel each other out.
Just like sweet and spicy aren't opposites either. It's hurting you, isn't it? I see you making the face.
It's got some staying power.
Capsaicin is strong stuff.
Yeah.
But I love things like this. This is such a huge... This is a big mead. I think that's a term we need to start using more. By big mead, I mean it's powerful flavors. Lots going on.
Got a punch.
Our holiday fruitcake mead was a big mead. Oh, yeah. Lava mead, big mead. My original spice metheglin, big mead. This is another one. This is right up there with them.
I'd say the old fashioned was a big mead.
That was big mead, yep. And we don't mean like ABV. I don't care about that. We're talking about powerful flavors. An experience mead would be a better way to say it too. Big mead or an experience mead. And this is literally how we do it all the time. Just keep adding until you like it. What does it need? Do you think it needs this? Do you think it needs that? And if you don't know what you think it might need, just really experience the beverage for a little bit and say, okay, this is chocolate, but do I taste the chocolate? Well, if you don't, figure out a way to get more chocolate in there. We could add more Creo brew and let it sit on that for another couple weeks, but I don't think it needs that. The vanilla turns up the chocolate note just a little bit without adding more chocolate. I think that's what it needed. I think it needs another teaspoon of vanilla, and I think it still needs a little bit more sweetness. But we're fine-tuning it now. What do you think?
I'm getting the honey now, where it wasn't before.
Yep. I think it needs a little bit more, though.
I'm concerned if you go too far with the honey that we're going to lose the chocolate.
That's why I want to add more vanilla.
The chocolate isn't as strong to me.
That's why I want to add more vanilla. See, to me, I get the chocolate flavor as like a creamy chocolate now. Can I do it? Can I do it?
Yeah. Don't breathe your capsaicin. It's a bad move.
Just for the record, too, a couple of teaspoons of vanilla in a gallon isn't all that much. You need more than that to overpower in most cases. And the amount of honey that I'm adding, I probably have half to 3/4 of a pound in there now. So I'm expecting this to be like a 1.040 to 1.050 final gravity. I expect that. See, it's that reaction that I don't want after drinking it. I want to just enjoy it and go, all right, this is nice. It had some kick, but it's good.
You're just making more.
I like to do that. Go ahead. Get it. She sanitizes her fingers afterward.
Yes, I'm like sanitizer woman.
Yeah, Turbos is right next to her.
Getting honey all over the place.
You're supposed to lick it off.
Well,
and then sanitize your hand.
I'm going to sanitize my whole body. I'm going to go for a swim and sanitizer.
Probably not a good idea.
Don't do that. That's a bad idea.
All right, so that's all mixed in. Oh, that might be a bit much. It's okay. Oh, wow. Now it's got a nice chocolatey, mouth-filling presence with the honey, with the spiciness. What do you think?
I think that's good.
I don't think I want to mess with this at all. No. Now, I'm hoping that the pasteurization process will help mellow that just a little bit and bring those flavors back together. This is, like I said, she's probably not going to appreciate this.
I appreciate it. It just hurts. If that makes sense.
I really like it. So, what are we going to do next?
We're going to take a gravity reading.
Yes. Like I said, I'm guessing this is like 1.040 to 1.050, somewhere in that range, which puts it squarely in the dessert mead category, but I don't know that I'd call this dessert. This is like a put it in a glass and experience it for about 5 or 6 hours. Okay, I was a little bit off. 1.062.
Woo!
Now, before somebody freaks out that, oh, that's sickly sweetness. Okay, like I said before about the other meads and stuff, it comes down to personal taste. If you make this and you like it at 1.000, go for it. All you. I think this was spicy enough and has enough strong flavors that the extra honey was necessary to bring the honey flavor forward so that you know it's a mead. Before, it really didn't taste like a mead at all.
It's spicy enough it's almost hallucinogenic in properties.
Oh yeah, it's
you're just like, whoa.
Yeah, it's got some strength to it. So
out of body experience.
I know somebody's going to ask, can I use ghost peppers or something? Of course you can. Use whatever you want. We went with something that was more of a Spanish-Mexican style of chili, so that way we kind of sort of almost maybe keep to somewhat of a semi-traditional kind of thing.
All right, so at this point, because we added that much honey, we're going to pasteurize it. So basically, we're going to rack this into a 1-gallon fermenter and then pasteurize the entire fermenter. We have videos on our racking and our pasteurization process. I'll make sure to link them in the description below, so that way you can follow along if you are unfamiliar.
And once we're done with that, we're going to put it back in the ferment station, let it sit for about a week, clear out completely. It might even be 2 weeks. And then we'll be back for its final tasting and judgment. So it's been 1 more week and we pasteurized it. You can see it cleared out actually really, really nicely.
We have a pretty decent layer of sediment on the bottom.
Let's take a look at that. Yeah, what you're looking at is the bottom of the fermenter, and there is some lees on the bottom. It's a little surprising how much more fell out since, I mean, this was just honey, chilies, acid blend, a cinnamon stick, and the Creole brew.
Yep.
Could have been the solids. But yeah, there's a little bit down there.
And we've noticed that with pasteurization. Sometimes, not all the time, so don't rely on it, pasteurization will actually help a brew to clear out. And this time, it did a really great job.
Yeah, it actually cleared beautifully. But this is also why we don't bottle right away. This will sit for, well, probably longer than I'd like to admit. Probably a couple of months.
I I'm already coughing. It's that spicy. I can smell it from here. Like,
It's going to be a hot one.
This is going to hurt.
I'm going to love it. It's going to be awesome. We did all the flavor adjustments. It's good to go.
It's going to hurt.
This ended very, very sweet for us. Now, it didn't end sweet. We sweetened it to be...
No, don't put it on my towel.
All right, I need another paper towel then.
Yeah. I will be right back.
Okay. All right, so we didn't have scorecards ready. So how do you get a scorecard ready? But yes, the smell on this, there's some chili. I'll give it that.
So the repeatability is up to 10 because before it was up to 5.
I did the wrong one, but it doesn't matter. Just cross out 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
All right, I can do that.
I have to fix the cards again. We have so many versions of these things. So our scorecards, if you've never seen it before, look like this. And we have a repeatability at the top, and that's 1 through 5. And what we do with that one is, if you've never made a brew before, if you're new at this, could you do this? Could you make this exact brew? It's pretty basic. There was just some honey, some chili, some fermento, some water, and then we added some acid blend, okay? And then we added a girthy cinnamon stick and some Creo brew. The Creo brew is the only complication you might run into. We actually had one brew mold using Creo brew. And I don't remember the circumstances, but it was in primary.
Yeah.
Whenever we've added it in
Our
conditioning,
others have
it's
been fine.
never had a problem.
And I think part of that is if you have questionable additions, if you put them in primary, there's already alcohol in there.
Right.
And alcohol
Is a little bit of a preservative.
is the cause and the solution to many problems.
Yeah, that's a good way to say it. And then we racked it, added some vanilla, added some honey, and pasteurized it, and here we are. So I would say repeatability, it's top marks. It's a 5. It's pretty easily...
I gave it a 4 simply out of complexibility. Yeah.
Complexibility?
Yeah.
That's a good one.
I'm making words. Again,
You know what?
this is my way.
I'm going to agree with you. I'm scratching out my 5 and going
And
4.
that's simply because of the Creo brew.
Yeah.
It's the wild card.
It's the only thing that could make it difficult.
And I hate to do that to Creo brew because
it works well.
if you want chocolate, don't do cacao nibs, do Creo brew.
Yeah, people have used cacao nibs for years, and we've tried them. They do not give the depth of flavor that Creo brew does.
Yeah.
Now, they're similar things, too. That's the funny part. Creo brew is the inside of the bean, whereas cacao nibs are the outside. The way the cacao nibs work, from what I understand, they're both from chocolate beans.
Right.
The way the cacao nibs work best, as I understand it, is if you make like an extract using vodka or something for a long time, like months. What we did is basically just add Creo brew, let it sit in there for a while, and it works beautifully well. So I would go with that. If you can't get Creo brew, but you can get cacao nibs, well, then just do the best you can.
Do that and perhaps wait a significant amount of time.
Okay, next up is appearance.
I don't even know what this should look like.
We go for clarity. We look at clarity. We look at color.
There's a little bit of
Let me show you what it looks like.
floaty bits.
So we have that held up to the light, and as you can see, it's a beautiful golden color. It's nice and clear. As Derica said, there are tiny little floaty bits in there that I don't really know what they are. I guess they're just little pieces of leftover stuff. This has only sat for a week.
The good news is that they're isolated, and so they aren't clouding the brew.
No, not at all.
The bad news is that there's just little specks throughout.
Now, don't anybody freak out. This has been 1 week since it's pasteurized. This will sit for months before we bottle it, and literally 2 or 3 specks in the glass.
Yeah.
Not a big deal at all.
I just
we just
updated-
noted it to note it.
I just updated our 1-year tasting calendar and realized that some of the stuff that's coming up, not immediately, but months from now,
months.
isn't
We haven't
bottled
bottled it
yet.
yet. Yeah.
So you don't have to rush it if you don't have to rush it, if that made sense.
This will sit for 2 to 3 months before we put it into a bottle. So any of those little particulates that are floating around,
end up
they're gonna
down
be gone.
here and not in our bottles.
Exactly. And if we end up racking it and see that, oh, maybe there's still some particulate, leave it again and then rack it again. It's all fine. Don't rush things.
So the next thing on our scoring list,
Well,
if you
we're doing
haven't-
appearance.
Okay.
All right, I have my appearance.
Is aroma. And when Brian was simply siphoning the stuff into our cups, I was like, whoa. So I'm a little afraid.
Now, I gotta say,
I fear.
Mexican hot chocolate is meant to be a highly spiced chocolate brew. It's not hot chocolate like we know hot cocoa, okay? There's no milk. It's more like a hot, just chocolate extract with spices added to it. It's meant to be spicy. It's meant to have strong flavors, okay? It's meant to be that. I've never actually had it myself. That's just what I've read and how it should be. Now, my understanding of that, and
I believe they talk about it a little bit in the movie Chocolatey.
yep, I didn't see that movie. Or maybe I did. I don't know.
Maybe
It's a
you
long
should
time
see
ago.
it. Huh?
Oh, yeah? Should I?
Maybe.
Maybe. Okay. On the smell, though, I get the cinnamon. I get this the sweet, spicy thing. I get the chocolate. I even get a little bit of honey. The smell on this, the aroma, is absolutely spot on for what it should be. In my opinion. Okay. We've actually switched intent and flavor just today. Basically, because they're both based off of tasting it. I thought that flavor should be the culmination, if you will.
I'm going to cleanse my palate.
You can cleanse.
I have my water bottle pretty much all the time, just off camera.
But in my opinion, we taste it and then we give the intent. Like, did it hit the mark? And then we say how it tastes. Because they're two different things. So I'm going in. This is not a Derrick Mead. I'll just tell you right now. This is Brian Mead all day long. So now you're thinking of intent.
We need to go back to Mexico. It's been too long since we've been to
Yeah,
Mexico.
it's been a while. For me, the intent on this means it should be very chocolatey. It should be very spiced. It should be spicy with heat. But it should still read as a mead. I think we're close. I don't think it's quite there. Believe it or not, I think it needs more chocolate flavor to really hit it. The chocolate's there. Don't get me wrong. You can tell there's chocolate. It needs a bit more. I think a little bit longer on the chocolate or more of the chocolate would have made this a little bit better, but it's so close. I think it's very good. Now on the flavor. This is an experience mead. This is not something you're going to put on a glass and chug. I mean, you see she's suffering just to do it.
I'm doing little mini meditative poses in between these things so I can be cleansed.
Meanwhile, I'm like savoring every sip.
It's like, I am one with the Aztec hot chocolate.
By the way,
Aztec
she's no
chocolate.
slouch when it comes to
This is with
spicy
me.
food. In recent years, she's gone a little bit away from it, but
Yeah, apparently it's a thing in my family that
you can deal with spicy.
adore spicy stuff. Like, oh my gosh, it's going to peel the skin off of you, spicy stuff. And then as we age, it becomes less appealing. And it's kind of sad. I have to admit, I am a little saddened by this transition.
in my opinion, this is such a wonderful flavor. It's very rich, mouth-filling. It is spicy, don't get me wrong, but there's enough sweetness to kind of calm it down. It doesn't, like, there's a lingering spiciness like you get from capsaicin and stuff, but to me, it's not as bad as it could be.
At this point, I'm having difficulty registering a flavor at all.
Really?
But I am getting a texture.
It's strong.
And the texture
You can chew this one.
is creamy.
You can almost chew this
a
meat.
creamy texture, and I was not anticipating that, and I find that aspect of it to be very pleasing.
Which is interesting because the only thing that would have added that kind of creaminess is more honey. Oh, we added vanilla at the end. There's a little bit of vanilla to bring the chocolate back out. I'm enjoying it.
Oh, that was a bad thing to do.
Normally it's the other way around when we swap glasses. You okay? You gonna make it?
I'm going to make it. I'm fine.
We got more tastings to do today, so
I am fine. I'm just trying to rationalize numerically what my experience is.
gotcha.
And that's difficult for me because I hate numbers. I drank it all, though, so...
Yeah, you did. She drank every last bit of it. I have a score. So basically, once she gets her score, we're going to tabulate these numbers using the calculator the teacher said I would never have. I'm going to take a picture of our scorecards so that we can show you. And all of that's going to be fast forwarded for your viewing pleasure. All right, scores have been tabulated. This brew has been judged, and we have some numbers. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
1, 2, 3, 9.3. We have a little discrepancy, as you can tell. So I'm going to be showing you our scorecards now. And I think, yeah, for appearance, we were the same. We both gave it a 4, mostly because of that couple bits of floaters. It had a very slight haze to me, so it was just very minor. Aroma, I gave it a 5. I love the smell of this.
I gave it a 4 because I could smell it from a mile away, and my nose is slightly more, I'm not going to say acute, because that would be inappropriate.
You have a different thing. There's your bias is different than mine.
I am really sensitive to aromas.
Yeah, strong smelling things bother her.
I don't wear perfume. I don't wear scented deodorant. I don't wear scented shampoo. I make sure that my laundry detergent has no scent. Like, all of it. Make it just go away.
So she's very sensitive to strong scents, and the chili is a strong scent. I mean, when I'm cooking chilies in the kitchen, she can't be in the room.
He popped the cork, and I'm just like, whoa. If he's cooking anything chilies, I have to, like, not only leave the room, I'm normally outside, because I'm just, like, crying and, like, my world is ending.
Doesn't bother me. I can smell it, and I can detect it, but it doesn't bother me like it does. Intent.
So I went with 4.
I have a 5 for aroma.
So I was still high because it was a pleasing aroma for what we were making, but it was just a little
that chili smell, a little too much for you.
Of the mark for me.
Intent. I'm a 9. She's a 4.
I'm a 4 because in my head, if you were thinking to say Aztec hot chocolate, I would say, well, that's hot chocolate with some spice going on. It's just bumping it up a little bit.
I see where you're going. I don't know. To me,
there's so much spice. I'm not even reading chocolate, to be honest with you.
I get chocolate.
I'm not getting chocolate.
Okay. And this is where, it's cool to have a couple people try things because we get different results. But the fact that this is a spicy capsicum at all makes it not her thing. Right off the bat. We just have to get that out.
Also, I think this is an unfair comparison because we just came off tasting
the s'mores braggot.
Our s'mores braggot, which is chocolatey,
and super sweet
chocolate.
So yeah,
so that may have impaired my ability to sense any chocolate.
Are you saying you cannot be unbiased? Is that what you're saying?
I can't be unbiased. I am a person.
It's almost impossible to be completely unbiased. This is my wheelhouse, though. Spicy, chocolatey, cinnamon. It's my thing. So that's probably, I might be a little...
20 years ago, I probably would have been like, hell yeah, give me some more.
I might be a little high with my intent, but I think it hit where I was wanting it to go.
Okay, fair enough.
And we could have had different ideas of what we wanted it to be, which that's a funny thing about intent.
Yes. Next up is flavor.
I'm a 10. This tastes amazing to me. I love it.
I'm a 6.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, I can appreciate this for a thing. I don't feel like it's an Aztec hot chocolate, but it's definitely a thing. And other than being too spicy for me to drink a lot of it, I would still be happy if you poured me some and said, here, try this thing, and didn't tell me what it was. I'd be like, oh, that's pretty cool. That's very interesting. So that's why it's on the plus side of 5. But would I ask for more? Probably not, because I'd be like, that's as fast as me to bar.
I'm going to drink the hell out of this.
And that's cool. It's all you,
I
babe.
love this. This is so good.
All you until we come to 1 year, and then we have to...
And you get to do it again.
Do it again.
I bet you in a year this is even better. I bet you it melds a little bit more. One thing people ask all the time, does capsaicin meld over time? Does it mellow? No. It'll actually stay. So everything else will mellow.
No.
But we over-sweetened this.
The science behind that is because capsaicin is actually an oil.
Yeah, it doesn't melt. It doesn't mix.
Don't go anywhere.
Yeah. Oil, alcohol, and water don't mix.
In your face. And they stay there forever. So the other things may meld while the capsaicin is still going strong. So possibly it'll be worse. in my opinion.
Yeah, it could actually be stronger flavor for capsaicin. Yeah.
But there's also a possibility that the other flavors melding may work in unison
to bring down the heat. Yeah, that's possible.
We don't know. We
It's kind of like sour cream on a spicy burrito.
In a year. That's right. That's right. So,
same concept. So we don't know. That's why we do the 1 year, so that we can see, is there a difference? Did it get better? Did it get worse? It's really hard to be unbiased and say, oh, this is better, this is worse. We can only say what it is at that time because our tastes change just as much as your taste would change.
And a year from now, I'm not going to be tasting the super chocolatey s'mores braggot before this because...
And a year from now, you may have decided that you like spicy things again.
There's no 1 year for the s'mores.
Nope,
I'm sad now.
The s'mores is going to be gone long before it gets to 1 year. But anyway... We have made a few other capsicumels. I'm going to put one right here so that you can click to that video and take a look at that if you want to. Also, if there's a specific brew that you'd like to see us try, ask away in the comments below. And as always, guys, thanks so much for watching and have a great day.
Bye-bye.